Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, a design-build company committed to remodeling the right way. Visit callmosby.com to get project inspiration for any room of your house.
This is a special edition of The Gateway. I'm Wayne Pratt. 5 years after the death of Michael Brown Jr., the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom has created Living Ferguson, a project that explores the experiences of Black residents throughout the region. As part of that project, St. Louis Public Radio's Marissa Ann Lewis-Thompson spoke with Michael Brown Sr. In this extended interview, he talks about the day that changed his life.
August 9th, 2014 is a day that will be remembered in history. An unarmed Black teenager was shot and killed by a white police officer. Within days, a movement surrounding policing and racial profiling of Black people would reemerge. But for Michael Brown Sr., that day started like any other.
I went to work 5:30 in the morning. Got off about 10 because it was a slow day. Our house had burned down, so we were staying with Cal's mother and uncle at the time. And she was doing laundry. I helped her do the laundry. And my mother called probably about 11 and told me she had a bad feeling and I need to go get Mike. And I told her when I get done folding these clothes, I go over there and get him, you know. And I got a phone call that he was laying in the middle of the street, dead.
The weeks leading up to Michael Brown Jr. being shot and killed were a mixed bag of joy and loss. That summer, Michael Brown Sr. and his wife Cal had just lost their home to a fire. Their blended family of 8 kids bounced between motels and staying with family. And a month later, they got married. His son Mike, as they called him, was his best man. But the highlight that summer was Mike finally graduating from Normandy High School. That was August 1st. For his dad, it was a big deal. And with school out, Mike was living it up, chilling with friends, and on the side, spending time with his grandma in Ferguson.
He was over there for just a weekend before he started college. So we was giving him time to just breathe for a little bit, you know.
A few days later, Mike called his dad to check on his stepmom, Cal. She was in the hospital. They talked for a bit. The phone call ends. And that was the last time he heard his son's voice. And then came the other call, the one that changed his life.
My mind went to, I couldn't even tell you, I was somewhere in a dark place. I went straight to a tunnel. You know, I just was like, everything is moving too slow for me. I need to go there. You know, like, it's hard to explain. But just trying to get to where he's at, you know, and it's like people ain't moving fast enough or, you know, like almost in the Matrix, you know. But we end up getting in the car and I actually don't even remember the ride. I just remember being jerked around. You know, Cal's mother was driving, so they say so crazy. I don't remember. I just remember my body getting thrown around from turns of the corners, and eventually we were there.
When you got there, what do you remember next?
One step out the car, Leslie ran past me and she stopped and she said, "This not true, is it, Michael?" I said, "I don't know." And she took off running. I ran behind her. We ran up into a big crowd. The crowd was just so thick and, you know, and police everywhere and people screaming and people talking, you know, and just trying to figure out what's going on, you know.
Everything was a haze. He wasn't getting answers. The police blocked him from getting a closer look. But in the midst of the chaos, he started to recognize small details. A red hat and a pair of Nike flip-flops near the covered-up body looked just like the ones he and his son both wore to his wedding only weeks before.
Those items kind of stood out to me, even though he was covered up. And it just kind of, I don't know. I still didn't want to believe it, but still not knowing, period, overall, just still not knowing, but just saying, that's not him, just trying to get people to answer questions and get answers. And nobody giving us the information we need.
A friend of his son's walked up to him and confirmed all of his fears. The nameless, covered-up black teen bleeding out in the middle of the street for hours on a hot summer day was his son.
I knew for a fact that was him then. We were being disrespected, couldn't see him. He laid in the street so long, 4.5 hours. It just was ridiculous, and having dogs barking at it. And ARs pointing in our face. It was just a ridiculous day. It was terrible.
From there, things didn't get any easier. He didn't get to see his son's body until roughly 2 weeks later.
After Mike was laying on the ground for 4.5 hours, we had received a card from the coroner saying give them about an hour and a half, and contact them, and we can come and identify the body. That time came, that phone call was made, and we were told that Mike had already been identified. At that point, I called his mama and asked her, did she go see him without me? She told me no. So it sent up a red flag that maybe law enforcement went and visited my son while he was there, because if she didn't go unidentified, I didn't. Who else could have been, So I felt like that was real strange. I didn't see Mike until the private wake. We had a private wake for the family and friends, and we had a closed casket for his funeral. So that was the first time I ever seen him.
What do you remember seeing him the first time? What was going on in your mind?
I noticed that I said something to Cal about the blood on his fingernail tips and stuff like that. I'm very a detailed guy, so when I come in this place, I'm looking around. I'm looking. I'm very observant. So I looked at his fingers and I was like, "What?" I said, "It looked like it was a bunch of dirt. Why they didn't clean them up?" And she was like, "This probably was blood. Leftover blood that was in his fingers." And then when I looked at his clothes, that kind of camouflages everything else. But I looked in his face. He was just, they did a good job. Yeah, he was well put together. He looked it in peace to me. I was satisfied with the work that they did, but I was still angry because of where he was laying at. The overall situation. Still the questions why, and still the questions like, if a person feel like they haven't done nothing wrong, why they hiding and they why are they not out here? Why are they hiding and not being part of St. Louis society still? And you have to move and do all this other stuff, and just questions. Like, if you never did nothing wrong, why couldn't you just come to the family and apologize still for our loss? But you felt like that was something that you had to do at the time, which lets us know that he's full of
You said there was a moment when you looked at him that kind of took you back, and it was a good moment. Any parent would be happy about graduation. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that moment for you? Because you say you were just so proud and overjoyed.
Yeah, I was very happy, that he graduated. It was a big accomplishment, That's just what a parent would love to see and know that their child has, accomplished something where they can go further on and continue education in their life if that's their choice. But overall, it's getting over that step, that hump, that was a proud day for me, probably than him, because I struggled with school, and he struggled too, but he did it, So that was just like the biggest thing that ever happened. Like I said, I probably was more prouder than him. It was a happy moment.
And I can still see it on your face. Like,
yeah,
he did it.
He did that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All Michael has now are the memories of his son's life scattered in photos. But the two sets of pictures that Michael reflects on the most capture the last week of his son's life. Moments from Mike's graduation and the photos from his son's autopsy.
So I have some pictures of him mangled and disrespected.
Remember, by the time Michael got to the scene that day, his son was covered up. He didn't get to identify his body, which made moving forward even harder. But he needed closure, so he requested his son's autopsy photos last November. He got them in February. It was the first time that he saw a raw image of the way countless people saw his son in the street. The photos triggered strong, deep-rooted emotions.
Definitely revenge, justice in my own way, just upset, mad, all over again. But I definitely felt like I needed to see that because it was almost like it was a part in my life that I needed to get past because I always wanted to know, but then again, I didn't want to know. But then I was like, I got to know to move forward. In order to know what my mission is in self, as far as the reason why I go out and I talk at schools and I do the stuff that I do, keep awareness, still have to remind yourself, like, why am I doing this? And it really just, like, sparked that fire, like, I know why I'm doing this.
Michael has been going to colleges all over the country to share his son's story. But Michael's story humanizes his son while challenging the misconceptions of what happened that day with the help of a documentary. He even holds panel discussions to talk about how life has been different for him. This is one way he's coping.
I'm doing it out of anger and putting it in a positive space, and doing it in a different type of way. So it's just, I get it, I get it. But yeah, definitely, yeah. Them feelings came all the way back, as far as like the person that's responsible for this.
He's still working his way through that dark tunnel of emotions. Some days are better than others, but he often goes back to that moment where he was folding clothes. He says, like any parent, he still feels guilty.
If I hadn't have been folding no clothes and doing stuff to help out, I'd have went on over there and got him. It'd have either been him or me and him, or just me, because if I had pulled up on something like that, I wouldn't be here. And maybe I could have saved his life, but yes, it definitely does bother me, because I would have been there with him, I've been shot before, and it's not a great feeling, and just to know that he took multiple shots, more than I have ever taken, and just to know the pain and what what your skin and your body and your ligaments and your muscles, how they react after being hit by a bullet, when they shut down, they get limp, and just know that he had to experience something like that. And plus, taking something in the head like he did is just, it bothers me, because I know that feeling, and I know what he had to feel before his fatal shot. I know what he was feeling before his fatal shot, and it definitely bothers me that he had to go through that, because that pain there is something that nobody, first you feel the pain, then you feel the heat. It's almost like your skin is healing back up after so much ripped fire, It's just a burning sensation. It's like your body just, it's like it's re-healing, but it's not healing fast enough. But you just going through the process of hard pain, like it in fire, So just to know that he went through that, it just, it bothers me. It definitely does.
The days, weeks, and months that followed his death were a struggle for his family. Everywhere they went, Mike's name was brought up. Even at school, Michael and Cal's older kids had to deal with it.
They went through people asking questions, people having conversations. They didn't want to get involved in because they didn't want people to know who they was. If they wouldn't, if they didn't have the last name, they just didn't want people just to focus on them. Sadly, they had to take different conversations. People was having conversations in classes. One class, one of the girls had, they had to do a report on this. People was debating and having different type of say-sos, and they had to sit through all this, and listen. It was pretty devastating for them, just to know that people had their own mind and thought that, basically he deserved it, as they say. Them getting into arguments about the fight, tear up schools. It's been a lot.
And grieving hasn't come any easier for their younger kids, who are still trying to make sense of everything.
The little ones, still asking questions. Tyler asked Cal the other day, told her she missed Mike, bust out crying. They had a conversation. A lot of people don't know how bad and effective that this can be towards siblings. People seems to worry about themselves and don't worry about how other people are feeling, especially children. So definitely just making sure they are staying on the right path and getting the right people to express themselves to. We all got a shrink, or a doctor. I say a doctor that we talk to. So we can get some of those feelings out so they don't explode the wrong way, but overall, no one hasn't forgotten about him. His good, his jokes, his fun time, his laugh, everything that every emotion, character, everything that he put into this family, no one hasn't forgotten. So he still lives on, but we getting through, and they are getting through the best way they can. But we just got to stay positive with them and make sure they stay on the right road.
Even with all the support from family, friends, and even Black fathers who've gone through the same thing, nothing seems to fill that void. Michael spends a lot of his time visiting his son at the cemetery, whether it's late at night or in the middle of the day, just sitting at his son's grave. It's a place where he lets his guard down and tells his son how he's feeling.
You know your old dude still love you, man. You ain't went nowhere. People forget. I don't forget. You still here with me. I just tell him I miss him all the time. I just sit there. Sometimes I don't even say nothing. I just look at the ground. You know, it's just a moment for me. You know, just taking time out and spending time out there. You know, where it's peaceful. You know, anytime I go to Ferguson, you know, it's people blowing. People want to pull over, want to talk to me when I go to, you know, Ground Zero. This place is where I can go and I can sit and don't nobody bother me, and I can be in peace with him. The transition of him not being around, you know, it still bothers the family. Definitely me, you know. He was my firstborn, best friend, best man. You know, he held a lot of positions in my life.
That was Michael Brown Sr. reflecting on the life and death of his son, Michael Brown Jr. He spoke with St. Louis Public Radio's Marissa Ann Lewis-Thompson. This piece was edited by Maria Altman and Shula Newman. The profile of Michael Brown Sr. is just one part of a larger project the St. Louis Public Radio newsroom has produced. It's called Living Ferguson, 5 years after the death of Michael Brown Jr. You can listen to other Black residents from around the St. Louis region talk about their own observations and reflections about Ferguson, policing, and their hopes for the future. To hear those experiences, go to livingferguson.org. I'm Wayne Pratt. This has been The Gateway.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.